with that.
I have a
Yeah,
whole new
O.J.
topic.
Simpson. Oh,
Well, actually, here's my
O.J.'s
better.
free. The juice is loose. He's out. He's on the fucking. I don't know if he's on the streets yet, but it's coming. Like,
Is it
it's
October
coming.
1st?
They
I think he's
granted that
going?
motherfucker parole, and he looked so happy, and it was visceral. You could feel the relief in that man, and there was this tension. There was this Game of Thrones type moment where like they went from parole board member to parole board member. The first guy's like, "I'm gonna grant parole." Second guy, "Me too." And then this lady's there, and she's like, "Well, I'm gonna reserve my decision for a moment, but let me make a few remarks first." And I'm like, "Oh shit." This white woman might not be too. And she's just like, "You've done this and you've done that, but just know we don't look kindly upon parole violators." And I was like, "All right, they're letting him out. They're letting him out." And then when she finally said, "And I vote to grant parole," he's just like, "Oh, thank you, thank you." And there was this moment as they're taking him out of the courtroom where he looks at someone behind the camera and he's like, "I'll call you." You know, and he's thinking to himself like, "I'll be able to call you. I'll have a goddamn phone and shit. Oh, I'm gonna get some bitches. I heard about Tinder."
So catch me up on like the actual, what was this for? Because this had nothing to do with the murders in the 90s.
10 years ago, there was I think this stemmed from the aftermath of his civil trial in which he was found liable for the deaths, and they took a lot of his trophies and memorabilia away from him and auctioned it off. Well, I think this stems from that. There was a man who had some of his memorabilia, some of his trophies or something like that, and it's a little convoluted, and it seemed like OJ was being set up because there was an audio recorder rolling the whole time. But basically, OJ and a couple other guys go up to this guy's hotel room where the stolen goods are, and he's like, "Nobody's leaving." And that's kidnapping. That's kidnapping. When you say, "Nobody's leaving this room. I'm O.J. Simpson. I'm here to take care of some business." Now you have kidnapped them under the law, and that's what they got him for.
The people he was with had guns.
Yeah, there was this whole, and so there was a conspiracy, and they're there, and it seemed like OJ's being set up. It really does, but nobody really cared because he killed those people back in the 90s. So they sent him to fucking prison on some crazy long thing.
What year was this when he was put away?
He's been in jail for 9.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the parole people, I thought this was interesting. They cited his lack of prior convictions when they decided to grant parole. Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, well, I guess that is how the law works. If you're found innocent of those murders, even though we all know he's not innocent, right? His alibi was he was out golfing in his front yard. What the fuck? He's guilty of those murders. Everybody knows it. But he got granted parole because this is the first thing he's ever done. Trying to get his memorabilia back, and 9 years was enough.
Yeah, I felt like it was enough, especially for this thing. And look, I know he killed those people, and I looked at it in depth. I watched both the ESPN thing and the dramatization with all those great actors, and like I lived through it. Like I can totally remember sitting there and watching the O.J. Simpson trial with my grandmother or my mother because they both watched it. Everybody watched it. It was primetime TV in the daytime. It was crazy. He's a murderer, but God, I honestly, there was a part of me that when they gave him parole, I was like, I felt good for him. I felt good for him because because something so big and good was being given to someone. It didn't matter who he was or the other stuff. I was just watching a man being given something that he wanted so badly, and that felt good, just to watch that happen, regardless of anything else. When they gave him parole, you could tell, like, oh, this was better than the Heisman. This was better than breaking the rushing record. This was better than killing Ron Goldman. I
don't know how I feel about it because I really do think he's a murderer, but I also think he's 70, and there's something. It's like, I don't know. I just have a little more tolerance, I guess, a little more kindness for someone who's going to die in whatever 5-6 years.
Well,
I can't help but contrast it to the last conversation just a little bit, right? Like, and I'll put this out there for deliberately for hyperbole, and then I'll just back away from it after that, right? Which is the effort of giving someone the identity they've asked for, compared to the granting a murderer that we all know did it, a parole. Like that contrast is fucking with me a little bit right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guarantee if I tell that guy in the moo like you're a beautiful woman, he's not going to have the same look on his face as O.J. Simpson did when they said you're free to go fuck white women again. He was so happy.
Do you think that he's gonna commit another crime or
No,
anything?
no, fucking straight and narrow. I guarantee OJ never commits.
He's got away with one big one, and he's just walked out of finishing a second one. Really?
He's gonna go through the triage.
Never again.
You know he can't drink? Well, barely drink. If his blood alcohol level is over 0.8, this is not a driving thing. It just if he exists.
0.08?
Yeah. Did I say it wrong?
Yeah, 0.8, you'd be long dead.
Oh, did I say 0.8? My mistake.
0.8 is a drinking episode. 0.08 is...
if his blood alcohol level is over 0.08, and that's not driving, just he exists that way, then he goes back to jail.
Do they have like a bracelet on him? Like
I didn't read about that. I just read that he's not allowed to be drunk.
Probably that bracelet doesn't read something like that, but probably it's spot check style stuff. How long is that on for? What's his parole length for?
Does anyone know?
I didn't hear terms. I don't think they've agreed to terms. Maybe that's something that comes next. I don't know much about this stuff.
I don't know either.
But I guarantee he don't even care. They're like, OJ, they're gonna let you out, but you have to transition to a woman. Sold.
Yeah, right.
Sold. OJ.
you just be like, you can't drink anymore. Well, isn't weed legal a bunch of places now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna move there. I'm good. Yeah.
That's actually I got confused at that part of it. I think they don't want him to live in Florida. Is that the deal? I think he said something like, "I know you guys don't want me here."
Situation. One state's like, "You killed someone here, go to a different state." All right.
Yeah.
Like
he killed in
You're
California,
Nebraska's problem
right?
now.
Yeah.
Anyway,